Yes, it is true. Peter saw the risen Christ with his own eyes, and we believe in him in our hearts. Jesus rose from the dead. I wish to all of you a very blessed Easter. This is an Easter like none other. It's usually the most upbeat, happy, pastel, lights, dressed up weekend of the year. But the dual crisis of the virus and the economy have left us confused and fearful and somewhat clouded with uncertainty. And one other personal note, this is my very last Easter message after 42 years of pastoral ministry. And I'm just going to be honest with you, surreal doesn't begin to capture how this feels to me. And yet here we are. Now I want to tell you that starting next week, we are beginning a 4-week sermon series that we're calling What Now? Faith When Nothing's Normal Anymore. I think those will be very important messages to help us get our bearings in this time. But what about today? It is Easter weekend. This is the single greatest moment in our faith. The question I want to address today is this: what does the story of the resurrection say to us at this very moment in our lives? The bodily raising of Jesus from the dead is pound for pound the hardest hitting story of all the stories in the entirety of the gospel. It is the best of the best of the best of the good news. It became the focal point, the singular message that Jesus' followers took out into the world when he sent them out to Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria, and to the uttermost parts of the world. The first thing out of their mouth was, let me tell you about a man who rose from the dead. Why was it so important? Well, the resurrection confirmed that there is life after death. The resurrection confirmed that there is a resurrection body. Jesus had one. We will have one. We are not just spirit beings. The resurrection confirms that all the teachings of Jesus are true and real, and we're to follow them because the resurrection proves that he is indeed God. The resurrection confirms that sin can be atoned for. We can be forgiven. The resurrection confirmed all the prophecies of the Old Testament. It was the inauguration of Jesus as King of humanity, King of the cosmos. And the resurrection marked the commencement of the kingdom on earth, his kingdom on earth, as it is in heaven. Now, in these last 40-some years, I've preached on all of these crucial products of the resurrection. But I want to look at another aspect of the story, honestly, that I've never looked at before, that is deeply personal to all of us and very attuned to our present reality. I want to look carefully at a moment in the story that literally, I think, maybe just took seconds. Something happened to Peter that can happen to you and to me. Something happened to Peter in just a few seconds that should happen to you and to me. Peter, after weeks of turmoil, and we've looked at this over the past 5 weeks, he experienced weeks of turmoil, soul-crushing, heart-rending, stomach-churning, guilt-inducing moments. You're going to see that like that, Peter suddenly stumbled into hope. What is hope? Is it an emotion? Is hope an event? Is it a state of mind? Whatever it is, I need it, and I think you do too. President Franklin Roosevelt said this: we have always held to the hope, the belief, the conviction that there is a better life, a better world beyond the horizon. Ralph Waldo Emerson said this: the health of the eye seems to demand a horizon. We're never tired so long as we can see far enough. And Pope Francis had this to say: hope opens new horizons, making us capable of dreaming what is not even imaginable. And right now, it is hard for us to imagine getting beyond where we are today. We need hope. This Easter, I want to lift your eyes to the horizon. And through this marvelous story, remind us of one of the greatest promises of God that we find through the mouth of the prophet Jeremiah, who said this about you. He knows God has plans for you, plans to give you to prosper you and to not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. I hope when we're done today, you will have a little bit of that hope and your eyes will be lifted to the horizon. But first, let's do a little bit of the backstory, as in previously in the life of Peter. We've seen through the circumstances in the last week of Jesus' life, from the time in the Last Supper, all the chaos of the Last Supper that was going on there, into the garden, into the betrayal by Judas, the trial, and then, of course, the crucifixion. Peter was overwhelmed with confusion and guilt and fury and grief. By the time we get to that Sunday morning, Peter's mind and heart were a dumpster fire. So let's see what happened to him. But let's back up a little bit and talk about what exactly happened on that resurrection morning. And this is a composite of the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. All take pieces of the story, so I'm pulling them together into one to tell you what I think happened that morning. Sometime while it was still dark, or very early in the morning, an angel